Hiya. This video continues on from video yesterday about universal basic income. That video was about is universal basic income inevitable or is it unrealistic? Well, I think that video, I was fine with it, otherwise I would have deleted it. I think it's a fair discussion. But because I was just trying to stick generally to that, I did move on a bit in the video, but I was trying to stick generally to the question and answering that question. And therefore, it kind of like misses out a bit of my class war side because in general, a video could have been made by a progressive, so who was in the system. So I need to go a bit. I need to add to it. I don't take anything back what I said in that video, but I want to pick up on where I started to veer into the class war stuff when I was going on about how we grasp any collapse in brought about by the AI technology revolution, such as if it happens, so if the techies are right, because that would cause real harm to the middle class professionals. And it would give us an opportunity. I mean, World War II was absolutely horrendous, but it gave an opportunity at the end of it for positive transformation of Britain. Wouldn't have had the NHS otherwise. Now, so let's get on to a bit of the class war stuff. So, for example, I support a wealth tax, something like 10% on wealth over £500,000. Now, that's the sort of thing I imagine is why social democracies in Europe are far more generous than Britain, because they do things like that. Now, in the UK, if we did that policy, the right wing, like the Telegraph and the Mail, would go absolutely apeshit. They would lose it. They would have hissy fits. Now, that is the sort of thing that creates it as being a class war. So it's not that I want conflict. It's that there are interests in the UK that do not want fairness. That is the problem. So none of my ideas, none of my thinking is ever to try and get conflict. But I can see how it will come about anyway. I can see how that's inevitable. A little surprised that I want the death of those sort of things, the right-wing news media, because they're just absolute obstacles to progress. They never supported anything progressive in their entire history. And when it looks like they are, it's just opportunism. I have no real desire for it whatsoever. We'd still be in the Victorian era, with people living wasted lives, getting absolutely nowhere, with prejudice thrown at them because they're getting nowhere, even though they're not given the opportunity to read and write and stuff like that. That's where we'd be if them had had their way, because they never initiated any progressive opportunities. They would still be living in a society where not only is it vastly unequal like now, but it's more unequal than now. It would give no vote for the working class, no vote for women. There'd be no NHS, there'd be no welfare state. There'd be absolutely probably be limited education for a 16 even. There'd just be absolute right-wing hell for most people. Now, thankfully, we're beyond that. Now, so as I said in the last video, I pick up on where I left off, where I was saying about if there's chaos in society brought about by AI, and the middle class the former middle class, because they've been destroyed or relatively destroyed. So there might be a semblance of a middle class remaining, but most of what we now say middle class would be former middle class. They've now been thinking more like the working class. Well, that chaos from that would be where we'd have to try and create try and get universal basic income out of it. And that would be our chance, with the working class politics, for a transformation of the distribution of income and wealth, because that would be just so revolutionary. We'd probably have fascists against us trying to take advantage of this, but we would have a real opportunity there. You see, there's billions and billions and billions of pounds to distribute fairly in the UK, but it's not distributed fairly. And it's sad that we need this chaos to be able to make real progress. We've won battles, like I say, in the sense that the working class and middle class have made progress, and like most recently getting lesbians and gays accepted as just people that are in love, and that's it. So the policy was to allow gay marriage, legalize gay marriage, and we've got people who are working class going to uni, and it's like the norm. So these battles are won, but I just need to charge the charger here. One of the things I often say is people once were without education. They couldn't read and write, people once couldn't read and write. So we gave them free education so they could read and write. And people say, oh, well, that's a right, that they should do that. Then we had to battle with, once upon a time, there was people without healthcare because they couldn't afford healthcare. So we gave them free healthcare. And they said, that's a right, so that's correct, that happened. Well, I think the same principle applies to money. It's an access pass in a market economy. If you haven't got money, you cannot, do things. You cannot get on with your life. You live a wasted life. So I think it's just the same as the health and education thing. And people don't have money for various reasons. When you look at what people are born into, you can see that there's a vast inequality, and you can see this in every nation in the modern world. That what you're born into is your life chances. So we've won the first two battles, education and health, but we haven't won the third battle on money. And so therefore, just like I take credit for the working class and middle class having succeeded on health and education, I have to give credit to the enemy for having won on the money distribution thing. So winning, because we never really give up ever. It's not a victory I would want. Keeping money away from people rather than getting it to people. I remember I once talked to this guy called Tom in McDonald's, and he's like economically left wing and socially conservative, typical red guy type of person. And I said, so like, what I wanted to know what his issue was with the political world in terms of the political class, in terms of money, because he's left wing economically. And he just said straight away, they never get money to us. It's going somewhere, but it's never to us. So I said, oh, you would quite like universal basic income, and I quickly described what universal basic income is, and he said, absolutely, that's what we want. Now that is interesting, because I just think that UBI has potential to begin with. So the chaos that could come from AI would be enough to push it through. You see, I think that universal basic income is popular, and if you focus group it and keep the conversation sensible and rational and sane, which it is done in focus groups, like a jury, then UBI wins every time. But I think if you just put it to the Britain with the sort of rabid right-wing press we got and stuff like that, then they propagandize it and poison people's minds and distort things, and that's how it can get defeated. So it depends, really. I mean, of course, the right-wing press is dying, so it becomes very blurry there, because like what I'm saying now, if it might not be true in a year's time, or it might already not be true, so to speak, because like their power's fading out. So if you just leave it to like, if you just had the local news media as the most powerful, you would see a lot more sanity in life. And it should be my free speech to be allowed to claim, by the way, that the propaganda matrix is real and it distorts things and poisons things and for itself and harms things. It will have had some success in distorting UBI. I mean, the Conservatives, if you go back to like the late 40s and 50s, the actual blue Conservatives that Sunak's in charge of now, they were a lot more left-wing. There was a group campaigning for universal basic income back then against socialism of the welfare state. How distorted is this? I mean, how twisted, but I mean, like, it's a mindset you've got to get into to think that the political class do mental gymnastics, whereas what seems like the sort of thing they're meant to support in one time is not at another time. And you're thinking like, how come there was a Tory campaign for UBI and like really pushing out publishing papers and campaigning and trying to win support in Westminster, and you think, well, it was a different time then. We're more collective, a bit more collectivist. Now we're just like, oh, God knows what. You know what I mean? And it shows that people, I mean, just think of them as people who have been caught by the propaganda matrix. It's getting rid of the propaganda, getting rid of the narrative, getting rid of the power associated with it, getting rid of the divisions that make them so twisted in their attitude to other people. It's just so wrong. It's just so wrong, and it's something that I think is very, very, very important. It's a very severe, important issue. It all comes down to narrative and propaganda and all this stuff. They can buy people off. Maybe that Tory group would have been trying to buy people off. I don't know. It's a long time ago. I haven't looked into it deeply because I think there's no point. I don't think there's any point harking back, that long and acting like it's relevant now, because it's not. If you said, oh, well, maybe you use that person, can't. Nothing. That sort of thing's no point. But we can't get money to the people unless we get money to the people. It's a circular argument, but it's true. It's true. How else am I meant to put it? I want to get money to the people. I mean, I'm trying to think of the challenge to what you could say. Could make it a minimum income guarantee. Well, yeah, but it gets stigma. You're trying to get rid of the stigma, trying to get everyone in together. I definitely think universal basic income is the way to go. Make it so it's non-inflationary. But Stephen Richmond says he's a very, very left-wing liberal. He could be in the Green Party. He says you need to make UBI as high as possible without it being inflationary. The poverty line a couple of years ago was £150 a week. So you've got to get it well over that. He's looking at around 200, I think. Ish. But yeah, I think the class war is very much to do with trying to overcome the propaganda. See, I think some people maybe hear the word class war, and I hope that key players in the class war don't do what I'm going to say now. But I wonder if they sometimes think it means just conflict, and that's it. Because I don't think that. I think it is about seeing through narrative that is attached to power, which equals propaganda. Think of it as like a maths sum. Narrative plus power equals propaganda. And then it's all about power and control. We need to understand that. It's not that I'm not trying to get rid of narrative, because narrative is just chatter in the head. And you might, it doesn't matter what, and it's only when it's attached to power that there's a problem. There isn't a problem when it's not attached to power. And that is key. That is key for me. That is a very key thing. So I think class war isn't about conflict as such, although there's some short-term conflict, but that's not the goal. Is to eradicate conflict. The short-term thing might cause conflict because you bring in a wealth tax or something, but not the goal. The goal is not conflict. The goal is unity and health. Health is my starting and end point. So for me, the class war, the artificial intelligence belief from the techies that it's going to become artificial general intelligence, where AI is at human levels and beyond human levels of intelligence. So we'll do all our jobs, we'll take over the middle class. That is the opportunity for proper class war, which will look like conflict at first, but its goal is not conflict. For example, what do I say on all my other videos? That we decentralize power to get them, and we don't take over a centralized power, because that would be us power tripping and causing conflict. So at first I was saying, for a long time I was going on about people's courts, but I thought, well, the Greens have a perfectly sensible idea about how to decentralize power at regional assemblies and such. So that can be the main thing. And also the devolved parliaments. And so decentralization isn't about conflict, it's about less conflict, it's about less power, which means less corruption, because power corrupts. It's excess power at the top. The wealth tax, or wealth taxes, especially on the more rich, the more wealth taxes matters. And get rid of the horrible propagandist news media at the top, so we just have local. So that's a bit like the Greens decentralization with the political class. We have the news media class, which is, I think, is part of the political class, but I'm just saying it like that to be clear. You can do the same thing with them, decentralize them. And educate people. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? What have they done so wrong? That education is very important. So we really need to get stuck in. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do from the class war perspective, which, like I say, is not a power searching thing. It's not a power reaching thing. It's not. We just want to get rid of propaganda, power, and control. And I do look to the AI revolution as our opportunity. So the quicker that happens, the better. That's been a 20-minute video. I think that'll do. I think I've made the points I wanted to make. Bye for now.